Sure, whatever.
Who's the more disciplined of the two of us? Okay.
Do you think me?
No.
Okay. I love that.
No.
Why did you say it with like that was a bait? Because you were like, oh, curious. Oh, that's a big surprise. Are you surprised? No, I'm not surprised at all. I'm exactly right.
Because welcome to this week's episode of Teaching Keating. Happy New Year, Momo.
Happy New Year.
Happy
2025.
New Year. I was going to do a countdown.
Oh, no. I'm so glad you did it.
I almost went 3, 2, 1.
I would have sat here.
Just to see if you'd smooch me.
I wouldn't have. I would have sat here and laughed exactly like I'm doing right now. I mean, you don't
Thank
have
God
to,
I didn't do that.
You don't have to fake a smooch. I'll always give you a smooch, but I'm just saying, like, we don't need to do some sort of fake countdown for it.
All
I
right.
don't think we need to.
Okay, you can smooch me at the end of this episode.
Yeah, sounds good.
Don't forget.
I won't. When we talk about New Year's resolutions.
New year, new
great.
podcast studio.
Love it. New everything. A lot of news.
New everything. New consistency.
Great.
New friends.
Great.
New, like everything.
All the great news.
All the new. All the new. Molly, do you have a New Year's resolution?
You know me. Historically, I don't do that because I don't really believe in resolutions.
Okay,
and
let's
habituated behaviors. Resolutions are dumb.
So let's dig into it, right? Because
sure.
this is the topic isn't really New Year's resolutions.
Right.
It's more because I think you and I agree on this.
Yes.
I think New Year's resolutions are stupid.
Sure. But we still do them and we have them. Like, for example, last year you did the cold plunge.
I did.
Which wasn't a resolution, but then you've been, depending on your road schedule, I would say you've been more consistent than not
also,
with
God,
it.
that's it's the most dude thing right now. Like
it
that
is
I did the cold plunge.
pretty pop culture.
That was a real vulnerable
yeah,
share.
sorry.
There.
I didn't mean to throw it out there. It wasn't a
It's
throwaway,
all right.
but I'm saying I was only bringing it up because that's a resolution that has worked for you. You've been relatively committed to it when you could be, schedule dependent, and you've found a lot of good benefits from it.
I get in that cold water almost every day.
Yes.
And
that's been a good one. Yes.
Every day.
Mm-hmm. But there's so much research on it, so that's not kitsch, even though it's popular right now.
I do think resolutions are
Yes.
ridiculous. And I'm not super interested in talking about resolutions so
Great.
much as I'm interested in talking about motivation versus discipline.
Oh, okay.
Because,
great. This is right up my alley.
Okay,
I
great.
love it.
Okay, great. Because New Year's resolutions, like at the heart, are sort of all about like just like initial bursts of motivation.
Sure.
And I think there's value in that.
Yes.
But I'm way more interested in discipline.
Right.
Way more interested.
As would all of the research would tell you, that's the most important behavior to focus on.
Correct.
But
so you don't
sure.
have a resolution. I
No.
don't have here's some like.
But I'll say as a caveat, I think that you and I, in general, we're both oldest children. We are pretty motivated people by nature. I would say we have that in common, probably motivated about different things.
Sure.
But I would say both of us initially before we got together and then as a couple are relatively motivated. So motivation never is usually a thing for us in general in our family life, I would say.
I agree. So put a pin in this, and I don't want to forget to talk about it because I do think we're equally motivated. Okay. I'm curious to know if you think we are equally disciplined.
No.
Put a pin in it. Okay. Put a pin in it. We're coming back to this.
Okay.
Here's why I'm not a resolutions person.
Sure.
There's some interesting sort of like Pew Internet research about resolutions. The one thing, like they're most popular amongst young people than they are older adults.
Like what's the age range?
Total
like 35 and under?
Total of the entire populace that was studied, about 30% of people set a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
Of that 30% of people, ages 18 to 29 are 49% of them.
Oh, wow.
So essentially half of them are between the ages of 18 and 29.
Sure, I would say that tracks. I would also say, like, if looking back at my 18-year-old to 29-year-old self, your 20s are a time of like a lot of transition, a lot of tumult, so I would say just, anecdotally that makes sense because
you're trying to find yourself.
You're trying to find yourself. You're trying to find your habits. You're trying to find what you do well. You're trying to find all your gifts. It's just a very tenuous time transitionally. Like that's
20s.
Your time in your life. Yeah. You could not pay me $1 million to go back.
It's weird because
so that makes sense.
There's parts of my 20s I look back on with fondness, but then
sure.
there's the bigger part is like, ugh, no thanks. I don't want to do it again.
No, not even.
Too many questions.
Me all the learning.
For a person like me who doesn't like question marks, there's too many question marks.
Yeah.
Here's
Okay,
what's
that's interesting research.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 topics here that people are most likely to make resolutions
Oh, do you just
about.
want me to tell you?
You want me?
I don't know. Some sort of health resolution that counts weight.
That's number one. Health,
Okay.
exercise,
and
or
wellness
diet
or
is the
diet.
number
Sure.
one resolution item.
Sure.
Which is part of the reason I think resolutions are stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I would say relationship. I would say work.
Relationship is number 3.
I would say
work or career is number 5.
Sure. Maybe family, but I don't know, because we make family goals, but I don't necessarily see that as a resolution, so I don't know if that would make sense.
That falls under relationships,
Okay.
family, or friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Travel.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Not on the top.
Okay.
Work
ahead,
or
give me
career
more.
is number 4.
I said work and career.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh.
I said work and career.
Oh, sorry. Hobbies or personal interests
got
is
it.
number 3.
Okay, I did not say that one.
Yes. And then
I want to become a sommelier in 2025.
hobbies or personal interests is number...
That's in retirement. Maybe not ever.
You don't want to be a sommelier.
don't, actually.
You just want to drink wine.
I do, but I actually...
You can do that.
I know, but I want to...
You don't have to take the classes.
I know, but I like the educational part of being a somm. Like, I want to know all the great variations and all the things and all the different blends and all. I want to know all of it because I'm a real geek.
It's
okay.
There's 2. Does it taste good or not? No. It's the only metric.
And now,
because
I'm getting old, red makes me wake up at night. So like, I can't even enjoy the wine part. I got to go with the like non-alcoholic, which who even knows what that is? It just sucks. Getting old.
There are times where you'll
sucking
drink
the life out of you.
non-alcoholic wine.
I have to. It's not about not wanting the wine. It's like I
think it's
literally
such
can't do this anymore.
a waste.
Yes, it is. It's probably like, why don't I just light this $45 on fire?
Yeah.
Or whatever it costs.
Yeah.
Not $45, hopefully, if there's no alcohol, but I don't know.
Number 1
Anyway,
resolution
keep going.
item, health,
Yes.
exercise, or diet.
Okay.
Number 2 is money or finances.
duh. Oh,
right? Number
obviously.
3 is
Yes.
relationships
Okay.
with family or friends.
Okay.
4, hobbies or personal interests. And then 5 is work or career.
Okay, so what did I get? Like 4 out of 5?
Yeah, you were 4 out of 5.
Maybe I missed 2.
No,
I missed hobbies and I missed finances.
I don't know. Somebody will
but
go back
whatever.
Somebody will
yes,
go back and check
great,
it. But
fine.
that's the stuff people are making resolutions about. And I do think I'm actually not surprised that they're more common amongst younger adults for the reasons that you said, right?
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just my guess.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah. More
Good.
common because you're trying to find yourself. And I feel like by the time you're in like your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's just like, hey, I know who I am.
Let's hope so. I think you're just evened out more. And I think the things that you care about and where you put your time and where you spend, again, all of your resources, which are whether it be time, money, whatever, I think hopefully those have stabilized for you and you've evened out and you kind of know where there's going to go, so you don't need to make resolutions about the goals you want in life. So,
I just
don't
hate
know.
the idea of a resolution because I won't have a resolution, but I'll have things that I'll either speak out loud or I won't, where I'm just like, this is going to be a focus for me moving into the new year.
Sure.
And that I can get on board
Sure.
with.
Well, the interesting thing about
I don't even
resolution,
know if that's that I'm probably just arguing semantics. At
I
this
don't
point.
know. Resolution, resolve, all the etymology of the word. So I should probably have looked it up earlier, but like leads to like some sort of finite answer of something. Like I resolve to do this, or I resolve not to do that. And I think when you put like a period at the end of the sentence, it immediately caps you in whatever thing that you're trying to do. And then when I think you cap yourself, then you're not in a growth mindset, not to get super geeky, but then you just don't allow yourself the space to change your mind or to move or to maybe be like, oh, that goal wasn't realistic, or maybe I either set the bar too low or too high, or, it just doesn't give you the ability to sort of move within that goal, which I find very helpful. I reach goals when I have the ability to move in between what serves me, our marriage, our family life, our parenting the best, and adjust accordingly. But I also, to your previous point, I also think that just comes with some maturity, and you only get maturity by getting older.
Yeah.
And gaining the wisdom that comes with all of that. Like in your 20s, like you tend to be like a little bit more locked in. It's either this or that, or it's all or nothing. Or if I don't do this, then
this is my
all
problem.
these other things happen.
This is my. It's
and
the all
I
or
hate
nothing
that mentality.
It's the all or nothing
Sure.
mentality about resolutions
Sure.
because for so many people, like resolutions are about streaks.
Sure.
And I have no interest in streaks whatsoever. Right. And this is interesting because
it's negative too to your, like there's a bunch of neuro research that like if you set a goal too high and then you don't reach it, it's actually very depleting and detrimental to your psyche, and then you don't want to try
once
again.
the streak is over,
Sure.
it feels like, oh, it's over.
Right.
And I think this is really interesting because streaks are a thing that kids are really focused
Yes.
on. So take like Duolingo.
Oh, yes.
Our kids Duolingo
Both of
streak.
them.
Both of them. Both of them started doing Duolingo because they wanted to learn another language,
Great.
which I think is great.
Yeah. It's a great app. Sure, you can have that one.
But they got
Yeah.
so focused on the streak.
Right.
You know, and at one point, like Everett lost
Yes.
his phone.
Yeah.
And he wasn't concerned
No,
about
he's
his lost
panicking
phone.
about the
He was
streak.
panicking about his stupid Duolingo streak.
Which, okay, it works. There's some sort of like whoever the app developer is figured out that this is a good motivation to keep
A good manipulative.
whatever. I mean,
I'll put a different word on that.
you can put all the words you want. That's called app developing, babe. Like that's what it is. Either way, bringing the person back to wanting to continue on the pattern, which
The
if
problem
we're
is
arguing,
it doesn't bring you back. Like
Okay.
once he lost his streak,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
is
know
deflating.
that I don't know that he went back.
he has.
He has?
Yeah. Different language, actually. But yes. I mean, it depends on what he's doing. Like when we were going to Mexico, then he was doing Spanish, but then whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, he's jumped back. I don't know if he cares about the streak as much. Again, he has different things to occupy his time right now. Their school's pretty heavy and
okay.
he's doing a lot of things. So I'm fine with that he's let go of the streak. But to your point, the streak thing is annoying.
And the streak thing is about motivation.
Sure.
And again, like I have no interest in motivation. I have a ton of
Yes.
interest in discipline. I want to go back.
Who's the seal that
We're-
you like? David Goggins? Is that him?
He's.
Is he not a seal?
We'll do a podcast on this one day.
Oh, okay. Things that I get wrong.
I like
that I
listening.
Say in life?
I like listening to any of the seals, like whether it's
Yeah.
Goggins or Jocko or like.
Yeah.
I'm
Because you have a similar mentality and you
We're gonna-
really like that mentality.
We're gonna do a podcast one day.
I
on-
don't like that mentality.
We're
I
gonna
don't
do
like
a
that
podcast one day
self-hatred.
on self-talk.
Yeah. Oh,
like
good.
the self-talk
Yeah.
that goes on in your head during
Yeah,
a
it's really
workout
different.
versus the self-talk that goes on in my head
Yeah. I think that's just men and women.
is like mine is always like, don't be a bitch. Like, oh, you're like every morning before I get in that cold
know.
water, that's what's going on in my brain. Oh, Kishnik, you're being such a bitch. You get in that cold water. Like
I mean, that is a motivation though, to your point. Whereas I'm always like, yeah, you're strong. Keep going. Let's get it. You got way more in the tank, girl. Go. You know, that's in there.
Never once.
And then I'll be like, just
Never
don't stop.
once
Just don't stop.
during
Just don't stop.
physical
Just don't
exertion
stop.
have I thought, you're strong, man.
Don't put down the weight.
Just keep
That's
going.
all I tell myself the whole time.
Really?
All positive self-talk. Yeah.
I do
Like
think
you have way more in you.
I do think
Get
this is
after
a
it.
fundamental
You're
men
way
and women
stronger.
difference.
I'm sure.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Save
Separate podcast.
Save
Sure.
it.
Whatever.
Who's the more disciplined of the two
You.
of us? Okay.
Do you think me?
No.
Okay. I love that.
No.
Why did you say it with like that was a bait? Because you were like, oh, curious. Oh, that's a big surprise. Are you surprised? No, I'm not surprised at all. I'm exactly right.
Because normally when we have conversations like this,
This is really funny.
it's you. Why
Okay.
I would tend to agree.
Okay. I would just say it's the reason we talked about previously, like on a lot of different podcasts, is just more, and this is not a slam, this is just an observation of your behaviors, that you tend to live between 10 and 1 on the emotional scale all
Yes.
the time. And so,
Which I've admitted.
yes. So because you have that fluctuation, I think discipline is really paramount for you
Yeah.
in achieving all of the things because you're over there. I would say, even though I'm not calm or chill, I tend to live more between like a 7 and a 3, maybe
Yeah.
on the emotional scales.
Yeah.
Maybe even 4 some days. I don't know. Sometimes I'm an 8. Sometimes I get really up there. I don't know.
Yeah. You
I mean, I
alternate
can
between
ramp
10
up.
and 1 as well.
Sure.
But your fluctuations aren't as wild as
Yes,
mine.
I was going to say that's a rarer occasion. So it's not that discipline isn't important to me, but I don't feel the pendulum swing as much. I'm naturally more just like, I'm going to work out. I need to feel good today. I'm being super pissy.
Yeah.
And it's not streaky. It's just my brain is better. I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. I'm way nicer, when I've slept well and when I'm consistently working out. And that's always my metric, always my barometer. It has nothing to do with my body. It has nothing to do, although I care, I'm in my mid 40s. Like I do care. Things are going south, as they all are after you've had children, and, aging happens. It's a reality. Biology is real. So like, I care about that part because I want to stay healthy for myself. I want my brain and my body. And not to shout out other podcasts, but I did hear on Huberman the other day, it's easier. You can't train your brain with your brain, but you can train your brain with your body. And so, and I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And it's something that like was said out loud that I was like, oh, I've always known that to be true. I know that to be true. I live my life like that, but I have never put words on it.
I'm having a realization too.
Okay.
I think a lot of it has to do with your self-talk and how different it is than mine.
Yes.
I think you offer yourself more grace and forgiveness for those moments where you fall short.
Sure, but I also feel like as a woman, and maybe this is just my experience, but I would say as a mom, at least in my experience, and as a woman, all you ever do is live with mom guilt and all of the things your kids aren't getting or you haven't provided or or how you're messing it up. And so because that just comes up a lot and those emotions, you have to figure out a way to either manage them, move through them, deal with them and stuff, because they have to flow through. Like you can't bottle them up and they're always going to come because that's the nature of humanity. And that's the nature. That's how it works. When people move through your body and you carry them and then they're on the outside of your body, it's just a real trip. And it's hard to like figure out how to operate with that. So all of that talk is always going to come. And I think my way of managing it has always been like, okay, you're always going to screw something up. Let's just do more positive today than how much you screw up. And that's always been in my brain. That's what I say to myself, oh, I forgot this thing today at school and I didn't look at the calendar,
here's the funny
I'll
thing.
make dinner and they'll get that. And that'll be my win for today.
I think what you're describing is discipline.
Oh, funny.
I actually think I'm describing about myself is motivation, right? Like I'm constantly, so like take the number one thing on the list, right? Like exercise.
Health and wellness.
Sure.
Exercise.
I actually feel like you're really disciplined about it based on what you just said.
Yeah, because
which is like, I need this to be to be healthy for myself. And then you just like, you go and do it because you're disciplined about like health and wellness.
Yes.
Never a thought that enters my brain. How often?
What?
How often a week?
That is astounding to me. What do you mean that never off?
How many times a week do you think I work out? In a 7-day week?
4.
Minimum.
Yes.
Minimum.
At least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like typically I
like on the low end. You like between 5 and 6.
I like 5 or 6, right?
But your bare minimum is 4.
But I'll tell you this, like I never want to go work out.
I never want to go out work out either.
It's a constant.
are people who likes to work out?
I feel
adrenaline junkies.
I feel
people
like
with the dopamine loop or whatever. I don't like working out. I like the end result. I hate working out. It's funny. I just heard Jillian Michaels talk about how she hates working out.
I work out.
I hate it.
I work out so I won't feel bad about myself at the end of the day.
I never feel bad about myself. I work out so other people don't feel bad about being in the room with me. That's true, honey. That is true.
Okay.
You can tell on weeks when I haven't worked out.
Yeah.
You always come home and you're like, when was the last time you worked out?
I know. And then I make the mistake of saying, you should go work out. Which you say to me frequently.
Yeah.
And that works.
Yeah.
And whenever I say it to
you
hate
self-talk in your brain.
It doesn't have the same effect.
It doesn't. It doesn't. What it says to me in my brain is like, ugh, I can't deal with you right now. Go work out. That's what I hear.
What it says to me in my brain when you're like, go work out is like, oh man, even your wife thinks you're a bitch. Go work out. No. It's effective.
I mean, this is like, maybe we should have a podcast about like our self-talk in the brain, because that sounds like that's way more important than what the outcome is.
I hate every lift. I hate when I'm on the treadmill and I'm running. Yeah. I hate every step.
And you're a gym rat too. Like you like the gym.
I
you
like
like
the
to
gym.
lift. You like to do. I don't like any of that. But I don't want to get too, because there's all different workouts for people out there. And we're talking about workouts, but I'm talking about motivation versus discipline. But like, this is our exemplar, because I'd say this is at the forefront of things that we have to force ourselves to do, either discipline or motivation wise. But I do it for everyone else, but also I have a positive effect from the end of like, I have to do it for me. I'm a better version of myself. And then it's all processional too. It's just like, oh, then I don't want to go eat In-N-Out after I've just worked my ass off at yoga for 2 hours.
About?
I mean,
All
I
wanna
love
do-
In-N-Out.
I only work out so that I can go eat
but I'm
In-N-Out.
just saying a processional effect is like, I'm not as inclined to be like, ugh, I can't wait for In-N-Out. Like, it's not like the In-N-Out isn't a positive reward. For me, it's a negative reward. So I was like, no, I don't want to just ruin all the hard work I just did. That sounds miserable to me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know. I'd rather just go have a shake and like, let's keep this. And again, not the streak, but like, I'm already feeling good. So like, let's keep this train moving. You know, it's only going to be a benefit. It's not going to be negative later on.
I feel like
it's not a carrot for me. Like a workout isn't a carrot. It's just like a thing I have to do because I know it has positive effects. And so to your point, I'm disciplined in doing that. But I never have to be motivated to do it. I'm never motivated to do it. I don't want to. I just have had enough positive effects. I've been doing it long enough. My body is trained. My mind is trained, right? Like all of those processional effects, I've had enough over time that like it's not even a question in my brain anymore. I go.
Can you teach kids discipline?
Ooh.
I think kids are easy to motivate.
Sure.
I'm discovering this.
Human beings are easy to motivate.
I'm thinking about the kids I coach. Like
Sure.
I'm thinking about the kids I taught.
Yes.
I'm thinking about our own children.
Yes.
Right? Like motivation is so easy. Motivation is so
Yes.
easy. Like to get a quick burst of motivation. But like teaching kids to be disciplined is super hard.
It's because they actually have to care about what they're being disciplined. I was thinking, well, maybe, but I do think yes, if it's something that they really care about. Right? Like but also that's human beings. The only way where you ever become or learn to become truly disciplined about something is having something you care about enough to put in the work and time and effort and all the painful parts that suck about it to get to the end result that you care more about, which, spoiler alert, like that's life. Right? Like there's not anything, like people talk about this with you all the time, just like with your job, like, oh, traveling and speaking, like that is so interesting. And that sounds like such an amazing job and blah, blah, blah. And you love it. You really care about it, but you're also very disciplined about it. And you're really specific about your schedule, about when you're home.
Correct.
What dates you will work, what ones you can't because of the nature of our family life and everything. So like that is a discipline, but you don't love the travel.
No,
it's great. It gives us a great benefit and we get to go places for points and all of this, but that's a crappy processional effect that you've learned to become more disciplined with because you really love the work.
And to your point, like I'm disciplined about my job.
Right.
And the boundaries I place around it.
Right.
Because I really care about my family.
Yes.
And I really care about the work.
Right.
Right. And
equally, not on the same level,
not
but
equally.
I'm
Like I care
just
about
saying
my
on the same.
family.
Yes, I know
right?
you do, but I'm just saying you really love your profession. You love the teachers you work with, and you love the work.
But I do think there's something
But you
profound in
deal
like
with
discipline will
travel.
only come if you care about the thing.
Right.
I'm thinking about it too of like.
And that's the thing that kids have to learn for themselves. So to your point, like to your question, it's like, well, I don't know if we can teach them if they don't care about it. You can only teach them on something that they're so passionate about in their heart. They will do all the painful stuff to get to the outcome.
But even if they're passionate about it, sometimes they won't do all this stuff.
Well, that's being a kid though too.
Here's why it's so difficult to teach kids discipline.
Okay. Because your answer is also no.
I think you can nurture them and guide them towards what discipline looks like. But teaching kids to understand and execute on discipline is extremely difficult.
Right.
And it's so difficult because kids don't understand causal relationships.
Right.
Like it's a fundamental flaw in brain development.
Right.
Like kids
Well,
don't.
I don't think it's a fundamental flaw in brain development. It might be a fundamental flaw in the way we teach.
It's a no.
Fundamental flaw in brain development. Is it?
Like I'm
or
not
is
going to
it
go
the
all the way
way
back to Piaget and all
Right.
that. Like
It might just be our processes
It's like
and the way that
kids don't
execute.
understand causal relationships. They don't understand if A and B are true, then C, D, and E
I
can
understand.
also
We
be
have
true.
2 teenagers right now, which is like that's my whole life.
So-
is not understanding like how I am trying to interpret like decision making and cause and effect like with their behaviors.
But it's why I think
Yeah.
teaching kids discipline, you're not like you're teaching them the habituated behaviors around consistency.
Sure.
But teaching kids discipline has to be a constant effort and remotivate.
Sure.
Right. And it's why I think motivation plays so much with kids. Right.
Right.
Like, in the work that I do, like coaching high school kids.
Sure.
It is a constant effort in remotivation.
And
It's not like
sure.
it's not like you can say at the start of the off season, like,
Right.
hey guys, here's what we're working towards.
Right.
We're working towards a championship,
They don't care.
and then you let Jesus take the wheel.
Right,
And it's like,
right.
okay, they got
You
it.
guys got it?
They're all
No,
going to
they
be super
don't.
disciplined because they want to. No, they're just
Yeah.
not.
Well, and I think to defend kids or just developing brains in that sense too, it's like because they don't understand that relationship between cause and effect yet. I feel like sometimes the adults around them, I don't know. I'm not for not setting high standards. And, I feel like high expectations, kids can reach them, and we underestimate kids all the time. Just because of where they are developmentally doesn't mean they can't have high expectations and high standards. We agree on that. I know that that's our life. However, sometimes I don't think the adults around them always give them benefit of the doubt of like, hey, by the way, they actually are 15. And they really don't, like, it's not firing for them the way that it's firing for us. So like putting that
I don't think we always
unrealistic
do that
expectation
with our own children.
Fair enough. That's human beings. So it's like rise to the occasion, but by the way, those two things aren't firing at the same time, and that is not happening in their brain. Like it's not. And sometimes I think we just say like, well, that's just like a lack of will or a lack of want. I'm trying to think of like the things we say to the kids or things I've heard you say in coaching. Like, well, you just don't care enough. You need to care more. Like, well, that's not a thing at all. They literally are not. It's not working in here.
It's a conversation I'm always having of like, hey, like your want can't
Sure.
exceed your work.
Right.
And this is the thing that happens with kids all the time. Like they all want things.
Right.
But the challenge is like, what are you willing to work for?
Well,
and if your want exceeds your work,
Sure.
then great. You're motivated, but you're not disciplined. So
Right, but that's also being an adolescent brain. And so sometimes I feel like, and this is where
I know,
conversation.
but it's so frustrating.
I know, but this is a conversation that you and I have all the time because we're not aligned with this, which is just like, hey, our whole goal as the adult in their life, as the teacher, as also as the parent, is like, it's habits, right? It's not motivation.
Right.
Motivation's bullshit at the end of the day if they don't have the habits. It's literally just habits that are going to get them there. Like it's the logistical habits and behaviors around getting to the goal. And if they have consistent habits and behaviors, and we have taught them constant consistency and habits and same behaviors over time, right? Like that actually does have a strong effect size. And because it's muscle memory, so they can go back to things that they know how to do. They've had success with it before in small occasions where they know where it's worked, whether it be like, I don't know, small sports or piano or anything that a kid tries, practices, and then does and has some success with, right? So then there's schema behind it, which means they're going to go back to it and do it a little bit more. And then that will help with the motivation. So like when they're when they have a low motivation, they can go back and be like, hey, remember that time? Because I try to do this with our kids all the time. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to school today. I'll be like, well, but you have a week and a half left. And remember last week when you did so great on this, and this? Like, I'm just always constantly trying to go back and reaffirm where they've had success in those places in the past, which helps can keep the behaviors consistent.
I think the powerful thing that you said, and we'll put a bow on it just for the sake of time, right? Like you're talking about teaching kids new habits, right? Like you motivate kids on the front end in hopes that you're helping them to develop habits, and then that habit, like those habits turn into discipline, which is a really hard thing to do. Also, like giving people new habits is really hard. Like there's that famous thing that's quoted all the time, like 21 days to form a new habit, which is nonsense. Like it's like 90 days. It's a thing that's quoted all the time, and it's wrong. The research actually says for a single person to change a single habit about themselves takes somewhere between 110 to 180 days. Sure. And that's talking about a person who wants to change a thing about themselves. Right. Like it's a wonder anything changes ever. Right. And this is powerful for like any, like if you're a school administrator, if you're a parent, like you're looking at yourself, like you're like, oh, why don't things, usually it's not people's initiatives that fail. Usually it's not people's goals that fail. It's their resolve.
Well, hold on though. Hence back to full closure after resolution, right? Like it's the resolve that is the piece. All of that to be said, tell yourself this when you're talking to your son, that it's 180 days, right? Because I think you struggle more than I do in terms of with patience. And again, it's not because there's a lack of resolve. It's not because there's a lack of wants. It's not because there's a lack of healthy habits and behaviors. It's consistency. And it's that we need to give kids in the space.
I'm not going to tell myself this.
Well, you need to.
Don't be a candy ass. Get in that cold water.
I'm just saying yourself and all the kids are around you, that the 180 days matters. Like that's a really important statistic that shouldn't be a throwaway. Like that's a big deal. And you're not even, 180 days is what, like half a year, right?
Yeah.
About to make consistent change. So that matters. And I think when you're talking about that, like, okay, realistic time frame. So like 30 days, throw that out. That's not a realistic measure.
No.
If you want to actually accomplish something, you need to stick with 6 months and then check in.
Also,
and then don't beat yourself up. And if you can do anything for 6 months at a time consistently, great job.
Great.
You're moving in the right direction. Sure.
Yeah. And for anyone who's listening to this and has already failed at your New Year's resolution, like it's okay.
Don't even check in until July.
Pick it back up again.
Or June.
It's not about streaks.
Sure.
It's about consistency and it's about discipline. Like, okay, you were really motivated and somewhere along the path you lost that motivation. Guess what? You can pick it up again. You can re-motivate. Like it's not about what you do every day. It's about what you do most days.
It's funny because we talked about this last year at this time when we did some goals, because we don't do resolutions, but we did family goals. We sat down. We did family goals. We did marriage goals, personal goals, financial goals. We just did a whole gamut and put them in sections of just like where they are in our life. And then we check in once a month. And I was noticing actually this month, I was like, ooh, there are some that have been on the list literally for 12 months that I haven't even revisited. And then there were some that I got 3 months in, 6 months in, eight months in, and they're good. And so I was thinking to myself this week, like, those goals aren't going to fall off. It's just they're going to be reprioritized. I didn't get to them this year. Doesn't mean they're done. Doesn't mean they're not important. It means I didn't prioritize them in the way that I probably should have this year, and that's why they're not done, and that's okay. And they're going to go right back on the list.
Okay.
And it's not over, right? I'm not like letting those go. And I think to your point, I think with anything with discipline and motivation, I think both of those are BS. It's just habits. It's just habits over time. For anything. You talk to any successful person, whatever success means to you in your life. No one's like, oh, I want to send rockets to Mars. No one says that. People say like, let's do these certain things. Let's work on these habits. Let me get really good at these specific things. And then we'll build on that. And then we'll build on that. And then we'll build on that. It's just habits. It's just how convicted are you in your consistent day-to-day habits where you're not going to get deterred by whoever's in your ear or whatever's popular, whatever the thing is. And to our point about kids before, that you love it enough to go through all of the suffering that's going to be at the end result because you're just like that passionate about it, right? It's just habits. For anything, any points of success ever. So stick with your habits.
There you go. There you have it.
I don't know. Do we have it? We'll see.
We're about to see.
We're about to see.
Yeah, we'll check
Here we go.
6, 8, and 12 months from now. Until then, 3, 2.
Okay, come here. You gotta lead in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Happy New Year.
I love you. Happy New Year.
2025,
Happy 2025, everybody. We'll catch you on next week's episode of Teaching Keating. As always, hit the subscribe button. Follow us, listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Until then, you can find me back out on the road at a conference near you. Molly, where can we find you?
We're going to be doing all the things for not New Year's resolutions, but we're really going to help the kids get to what they need to get to this year. So really focused on that without being cryptic.
No pressure.
They have a lot going on.
Yeah,
so we're just going to
pressure.
commit to helping them do all of those things that they want to do.
We'll see you guys next week. Be well.